Hi everyone, this is Prejan, aka Gigi.
And I'm Victoria.
And this is Mika.
And this is A Word at the Table. Hey everybody. Happy Juneteenth weekend, I guess. We just basically we're celebrating this holiday for everyone to like recognize us and start making it like a official holiday. So right now with our racial climate, I think it's just so important that we do recognize our history, and it's been an interesting time, honestly.
A long time coming. I'm excited that we are in the time that we are in, because it seems like there's finally going to be a lot of changes made, because it seems like people that matter, that are at those tables, are actually finally listening. So hopefully this is not a short-term thing or a trend, but an actual change.
Yeah, same. I'm like so proud of our generation. Like, I feel like we are a movement, and I genuinely do think that things will change. I genuinely do think that, and I'm really excited. Like, I think there's so many laws that have been passed that are showing that there are changes are coming, but it's a long battle. But I forget who said this, but there was just like, the battle to end racism is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So I think it's important that we celebrate the wins that we have, but we do have some way to go. But I definitely agree with you, Mika. Like, I feel like we're living a moment in history, and I think that we're gonna get there. I genuinely think that.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, so anyway, we're gonna start typically, we have like a bag of questions and then we jump into the topic. So with the racial climate, I guess we'll just have questions that are kind of geared towards that. So have you guys, I mean, this is like a moment of awakening, a moment of people's eyes, being open to things. Is there anything that you've learned with this whole, moment that we're in? Have you guys learned anything?
Ooh, it's been a wealth of information, like overwhelming amount of information.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I feel like for me, it's not so much. I guess it is what I learned, but I think I learned more how to articulate my Blackness and how to be more proud of being who I am in the rooms that sometimes, like, for example, maybe in the corporate environment, you can dim your light a little bit because you're a minority. But I think that, like, through this season that we're going in of racial tension, and I think I just learned to speak more boldly and to speak up more.
Nice. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I feel like I'm like super bold with whatever I have to say as well. But then again, I've always been like that. But but it's more. But I would. Oh, would you say, Mika?
Articulating it. Like, sometimes you didn't have the right words to express it, but I think now I have the words to express it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And for me, I actually, I didn't know so many people were so unaware of it. Like, genuinely did not know all the things that Black people go through. And they're like, oh, like, it's like, what? Like, we're literally in a season of awakening. And it's just like, or a moment of awakening, whatever you want to call it. But I didn't know that so many people were like so blind to it, or like we're like, wow. And it's like, oh, welcome to our lives. Like, this is something that we've dealt with for years. So it's so that's something that I'm shocked to know. I think some people might have known, but then acted like they didn't. But I genuinely do think that some people were just blind to it, and they're like, whoa, this is something that needs to change.
I think one of the things that I learned throughout all, like, this specific movement is, with some of the actions that people want to take, like with defund the police, like I know that sounds like a radical idea, but like it's bringing to light like how much of an oppressive force the police is, like the police as a system is, and like how much money goes to allocate people that like bully civilians like they're already criminals. And so it's like when people say defund the police, like maybe it's just mean like lessen the police force, because when you're in a nice neighborhood, you don't see the police like surveying around like sharks.
Yeah.
Like you don't see that. Like I feel like it shows how corrupt the police system is and how much it needs change, it needs reform.
And
like things doesn't keep happening.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think like even you always had, I think, a good amount of Black people that saw the Black Lives Matter movement as sort of too radical, like as they were like, in the middle. But I feel like now most Black people, if not, yeah, like the majority of Black people are aligned with the whole movement of Black Lives Matter and are on the same page with defund the police. Because before it was like, well, this neighborhood has a lot of crime, so the police needs to be there. But we didn't connect the dots to, well, maybe there's a lot of crimes because the police is there.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I think I saw a video that the Young Turks did that 70%, I have to look back on it, but like 70% of the time when cops are called, an arrest is made. That means it's like just because you show up, arrest is made. Like half the time when you call the cops, it's not necessarily like, arrest is like, you can call the cops on people who are just minding their business, and then now it's an altercation because you don't know if they have quotas to fill. You don't know, like they come, I have to do a job. Oh, what was the problem? Like
Yeah, it's like if you called the fire department, but you didn't really need the fire department to break your windows and get into your house, they're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so funny. That's exactly what. Like you're here to help, but you're making the situation worse.
Yeah.
Oh man. But anyway, so I guess if you guys don't have anything else you'd like to share that you've learned, I guess we can jump into the topic.
So the topic for today is, does your hate, like I definitely wanted us to talk about this because I'm guilty of this myself. Does your hate stop you from feeling God's presence? So with this current climate, it's clear that there's a lot of hate on both sides. Like you have people who don't understand a movement. They're like trying to demonize people that are protesting. They're trying to paint the situation in a certain light or minimize a certain situation. Like, people maybe deserve certain things to happen to them. So I feel like there's a lot of hate going on from both sides, and whether or not you agree that it's supposed to be a Christian nation, but I feel like hate is really prevalent right now. What does the Bible say about hate? So the verse I wanted to talk about is 1 John 4:20. If anyone says, I love God and hates his brother, he is a liar. For he who does not love his brother whom he has seen cannot love God whom he has not seen. What do you think the reasoning behind that is?
Well, that's something that I have thought about in the past, not in the context of today's environment or climate, but I think God calls us to love our neighbor and says that, if you say you love God, you have to display that to how you love the person next to you. God, I think, is often you can think of God as an idea, although we know that God is real and he has shown himself to us countless number of times. But sometimes I think in your day-to-day, like divine power and God's presence can be more of an idea rather than a reality. So I think if we can't love the person that we're supposed to do life with, even if it's not like, somebody that you're in a personal relationship with, but just, just a stranger, another human life. Like, I think
Exactly.
if you are not, if you don't love that person, or if you're not concerned about that person's well-being in general,
Mm.
I think it's hard for you to then say, I love God, because it just doesn't jive well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's because of the fact that people are more tangible. Like, I can literally see you. I can see you. I
Mm.
can touch you. If I stab you, you're gonna bleed. Like, I see, I can
Right.
see how I'm hurting you. So it's like, how can you deny something that's so tangible, but yet you can just be like, okay, no, I believe in God, who I don't necessarily see on a daily basis. Like, I know God's presence is with me, but it's not as tangible as if I was to see my brother or sister. And what it is about that verse, it says, to love your neighbor. It doesn't say your white neighbor. It doesn't say,
Mm.
your Asian neighbor. It says to love your neighbor. So it's like, you can't just manipulate it to how you want to see it, so
Mm-hmm.
that's my take on that verse.
You ever heard that story where it's like, if Jesus was like a homeless man or something like that, and like how people would like react to him? Or you guys ever heard that story?
Mhm.
Yeah. So it is kind of the same way. So it's like if Jesus himself was like a person on earth, and he didn't look like the type of person that you usually interact with. He wasn't like clean, and he, didn't have long blonde flowing hair and stuff like that. If he looked like somebody that would otherwise frighten you or something like that, how would you treat him? Like how can you hate somebody that you don't know, or just another child of God, and call yourself a Christian? Like how do you have that animosity towards somebody else? You have no idea who that person is.
And one thing that comes to mind, and I don't know if this is going to be off topic, but it's to think about. I heard a statement. Well, I've heard this several times. How racism and white supremacy is something that I don't know if it started, but perhaps was encouraged by evangelical Christians.
Yes, say that.
Yeah. So I heard the Pope make a statement like maybe a few weeks ago, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, about, because Catholics, for example, different from evangelical Christians, obviously, but Catholics they always hang their hats on pro-life. Every life matters. And the statement that the Pope made said something like, we can't tolerate or turn a blind eye to racism and exclusion in any form, and yet claim to defend the sacredness of every human life.
Mm.
So it's like, if you're saying, I don't know, conception, you believe that life matters, why does not every human life, when they're walking around on the planet, also matter? Why should any
Yeah.
life be subjected to any form of supremacy or inferiority?
Yes.
So I think it's really it really is something that tears at my heart to think about, that the church and Christianism also has that really bad, I guess, it's like the past, or the basis of how the modern church was created was founded on these ideas of separation and segregation and supremacy, that I think we need to reconcile with as a people and as a Christian people, to really make amends for that and somehow heal. Because I think the church has to set an example for society, rather than
Yeah.
asking government to model how to love people and for us to follow suit. I think the church should be the first step where it starts.
Right.
That's a whole
Agreed.
topic within itself. No, that was definitely fact.
Yeah, because we hold a higher standard than the
Mm.
world. Like, I shouldn't be getting the same treatment that I get at a bar at a church.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, if this was truly a Christian nation, and we're supposed to, like you said, supposed to be, pro-life, we shouldn't accept executions in the street. Like,
Right.
like if this is pro-life, we shouldn't accept executions in the street. We shouldn't accept, like, food deserts and child starvation. Not even child,
Yes.
like people starving
Yeah.
and stuff like that. We shouldn't.
Homelessness,
Yeah.
poverty, like.
This should be pro-life. This should be all under the pro-life, agenda,
Mhm.
because half the time, I mean, I say half the time, but a lot of the times, if someone it wants to have an abortion, it's usually because they can't afford it. So, like, if this is really a Christian nation, why do we have poverty as such a big issue? People literally can't afford to live.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point.
Hmm. All right. So my actual next point was, Americana versus white Christianity. I think, Judy, you sent me like this video of the pastors talking about, like, touching on that topic.
Yeah, it was such a powerful. I sent it to you too, Nika. Maybe you've seen it with TD Jakes talking to like white pastors. It was
Mm-hmm.
I
really
don't think I've
good.
seen it.
I will send it to you, girl. It was so good, and it was such an open, honest conversation about the church and how they literally are mirroring what white supremacy is, like, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, didn't Martin Luther King say the most segregated day of the week is Sunday?
Yeah,
Ooh.
Was
he
it Martin
did.
Luther King? Somebody said it.
I think it was.
Yeah, and it
So
still is.
that makes sense, because it's like this nation is supposed to be like a Christian nation, and like these are the values that it's set it upon. But like, like the KKK is also a Christian organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's like you can have, like, I feel like that's not Christianity, that's Americana. Americana is like this
Mm-hmm.
weird watered down version of Christianity where it's like we're
Yes.
praising white Jesus.
Yes.
It's like this Americana allows for hate. This Americana allows for like death and poverty and like, the dehumanization of other people. Like it's okay to put people in cages because they're not white immigrants, like, they're brown immigrants, like,
Right.
like, and I feel like that's what our country's kind of like being based on, like an Americana type thing, and like that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say I completely agree with that. And it's like I think also the fact that like these days, the way that culture is like, well, everyone has an opinion and everyone is entitled to their opinions. Okay, cool. But there's also something called facts. Like there are things that are not opinions. Like I think
The
we've
truth.
allowed as a culture, American culture, too much like opinion based ideas inflicted upon what the true word of the Bible says, that I think like if we depart from it in one area, it's kind of hard to not depart from it in all other areas. Like it's kind of hard to keep control of that. So that's really why I think people are confused by the whole love thing, because they find ways to justify their unjust actions.
Exactly. Like you have like reasonings on like why this is okay and stuff like that, and it's like, if you're not using the truth, you're using a lie. Like these are
Right.
lies, like it's okay to call out and like what lies are and like what the media propagates and like what has been passed down to you by generations and generations. It's okay to like look up a hashtag and be like, oh, this is what this movement's about. Maybe,
Mm-hmm.
let me exercise some compassion and figure out what this is,
Yeah, I agree. I
So that's
agree.
my feelings on that. But as on the other side, how do I check my own feelings of prejudice? Because I'm not even like, if I'm going to be absolutely honest, obviously I'm not in a position to carry out hate, but I feel a little hate towards people who might hate me. It's kind of like like that
Mm-hmm.
toxicity is contagious,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not even
No.
gonna front. Like I'm not gonna say that I don't like white people. I'm not gonna say that, but like usually when I meet a white person, and they are of faith or whatever, right? I just
Mhm.
automatically think Trump supporter. Like, I don't know why. Like, every time I think about white Christians, I'm like, do you have hate in your heart? Like maybe because I went to a Christian high school, and like some of those teachers and the administration, I'm gonna be honest, like let's be honest. When you have a white Christian conservative, they're usually not accepting of your blackness. I don't know. Like they just kind of instill something in you that makes you kind of hate yourself.
No, 100%. I agree with you. Like, I feel like the whole white evangelical church is like like they support the political things when it has to deal with them.
Yeah.
And then if it gets anything political with Black people, they're like, ooh, we're the church. We don't really deal with things like that. Like, that's their perspective of it, and that's how they deal with it. Even with now, I don't think they've released a statement or done anything. Where they at? Nowhere. They're just silent. So
You talking about the white
yeah.
church? What do you mean?
Well, yeah, the white evangelical church. They're just, I don't see them in the streets. I don't see them doing protests. Most of these protests are like Black churches. I mean, I haven't heard anything. I could be wrong, but
the
I haven't
only
heard
video that I've seen so far is like these two white evangelical pastors talking to, you guys know Lecrae?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a weird video. I only seen snippets. I didn't see the full video, but it was such a cringy video. They were talking about like the white blessing, teaching the Black girl. They were talking about the white blessing, teaching the Black man about God, and Lecrae was sitting there nodding his head.
What?
I have to watch the whole thing. Because like I just saw like snippets on Twitter, but like that's what I'm talking about. Like when I tell you they instill like a type of hate for you. Like I remember in high school we had a poet that came to speak at our school, and she was saying facts, like just her poem was about like Black pride and like holding your head up even when you're different among the among the masses, and she like did a Black power fist.
Mhm.
Then one of the white Christians in the administration of my white school was like, oh, so serious. They were like, oh, those people like that anger me. If you're so unhappy with this country, why don't you get out?
Oh my
Wow.
God.
I was 15 years old and they said that. And I look to you as a man of God. You do chapel every Friday. Like I look up to you. You speak facts about the Bible all the time. And then like somebody comes to the school, talks about my Blackness, made me feel like, okay, what's up? It's kind of lit to be me. Or whatever, and you smack it down like it's like, what is that?
Yeah. I go to an all-white church. Like, literally, when I say I go to an all-white church, like me and Neskin are the only two Black people in the church, and everybody else is white. And I think there's one other lady who maybe of like she's maybe a Latina. I'm not sure, but she's not white.
Of color.
Yeah, she's a woman of color. Yeah. So, but I think that given that I'm in the state of Indiana, that is a super conservative red state, I often like the people are really nice, really polite, really loving, but I have to say that there is a disconnect between like Blackness and appreciating, culture, Black culture, or even expressing the terms Black Lives Matter, versus like talking about, their positions as a church and how they should be influencing community. Now, I say this to say, and also like with a grain of salt, because given that we're going through like this coronavirus pandemic, I haven't been in church since early March. So I don't know if they've actually, talked about it. I also haven't attended the virtual sermons and services because I've been attending my New York church services. But I don't think that they I don't think that they've really said anything. Like, I've had a lot of my secular friends from in New York, my secular white friends, who reach out to me and say, like, how are you
Fun.
doing? How
Mm.
are you taking in all that's going on? Like, I don't know what to do or what to say, but I just want you to know that I care about you. And if you ever want to talk, I'll be there to hear you. Like, a lot of my white friends
Mm.
did that. And these are
That's so
non-Christian people.
awesome.
Yeah. And not a soul in my white church did that. Not one. And the
Yeah.
thing is, like, even though I'm not attending like regular Sunday church service, I still have gone to Bible study, like the women's Bible study group, weekly. And, they say in general, like, oh, Mikkel, how are you? But it's not like you're not asking me, you know, like a direct question, like, how are you
Mhm.
doing with things that are going on right now in the news and in the city? And
Right.
like in the city of Indianapolis, we had recent shootings of Black people by the police, and there were protests in the streets. And it's like, I feel like they were just either uncomfortable and they didn't know what to say, but no one made an effort to say anything. And that, like, I think that has me like rethinking my church affiliation or my position. I don't know.
Mm.
Because
I
it's
mean, that
important
matters
to me.
though.
Because I think that God doesn't God did not create racism, but He certainly created people, and He created us different races. So, and He loves us all the same, and He calls us to love each other all the same. So I think it's not, we can't diminish our blackness or really our whiteness, really, to be less than what it is. But I think that people just need to love each other and respect each other. And um, like, even if like white people may say, or some may say, well, my parents or my grandparents were not slave owners. Yeah, nobody said that you directly
Mhm.
were involved in slavery, but you need to recognize that you are privileged by the systems that were established and that stemmed from
Right.
slavery. And I think that, like, white people and white Christians especially, they feel they haven't come to a reckoning of that. And I don't know what will take them there.
Hopefully this movement, hopefully the wealth of information that's out there, and like a true movement of God pushing compassion and like
Yeah.
opening up their eyes. Because like, if you really want to label yourself a white evangelical Christian, you're labeling yourself with the party that supports Donald Trump. Take a look at
Mm-hmm.
what that party represents. That, take a look at your Bible. Do they correlate? Like, really, where
Mhm.
are you headed?
Yep.
Exactly. And that's just so sad that literally your friends, your white friends that aren't Christians hit you up.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
God,
Like
I used to have a joke about that. That like my favorite type of white people are the godless kind, because God, honestly, white people are just nicer. They're just more moral. They'll come to a
Yes.
march with you. Yeah, like if they'll have like tattoos and piercings and be all weird, but they're like actually good people. Like
Yep.
the people that go to Bible, the white people, not regular, but like the white people that go to Bible study and church and stuff like that. Those are the white people that usually want to take away your right and tell you why you deserve, like, oh well, what was he wearing? And oh well, he was doing this. Those
mhm.
are those white people. And
You
I
know?
need to figure out a way to check my bias, because their hate is like contagious to me, and
Yeah.
I have to check it. I have, because like, that's not like your reaction to the racism that you feel, and not even racism, but like the microaggression. Because like, when
Mm-hmm.
you feel marginalized, when you feel like invisible, that's an attack on you too. So it's like, the hate that I feel from this microaggression from white Christians is like, I need to work on that too. And I'm pretty sure like a lot of woke Black people of faith can attest that too.
Yes. And I think that you're totally right. Like, as a Christian people, we do have to be we do have to be careful and cognizant and to not become like them, because true
Mhm.
wrongs will make a right. But also, like, every time I say that and know that that's the right thing to do, I also flip the script and I'm like, why do we always have to be the ones to be flexible? Like,
Mm.
why can't they also see? Because I think someone said, like, Black people are too forgiving.
Yes.
And it's,
I
it's
wrestle
like,
with that all the time.
yeah, we are forgiving because, but the thing is, I think we're also, that speaks to our strength. Because I think, like, if Black people have always been popping, because even though, like, we've been through so much, like, but look at us. And
Mhm.
I think it's just, like, God gave us that, or I don't know, like, if this might sound or rub people the wrong way, but I think God gave us this as a burden, and I think it made us, better people, and people that really see His grace and His light. Not to say that Black people are more Christian than white people, but I think
Um.
that,
But
but
I
I,
do agree with you, Mika. I do think
yeah.
that yeah, that with everything that we've gone through, we're just the people of resilience. Like, we just come back, and we come back even stronger. And
Yeah.
I also wanna oh, did you finish your point?
No, I was just gonna say, like, even if it's like, well, why do I always have to be the one to be flexible, the one to, check my Bible and see if my heart is in the right place? Even if you're always the one doing that, you should still do it, because really,
Yeah.
like, God holds each of us accountable. And I'm
Mhm.
sure there are some white people who hold themselves accountable to the
Yeah.
Bible that way too. It may not be the majority of Christians, but the road is narrow, and I
Yeah.
think we all have to walk that walk the best that, the way that God speaks to our hearts, and be obedient.
Yeah. And I think that forgiveness is also a gift for you. Like, it's not necessarily like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, I'm always forgiving. Why is this like this? But it's a gift for you. So you don't have to always hold that hate in your heart. Like, it releases you from just those negative thoughts, or those negative things that you could just put on your heart. So it's for you. It's not necessarily like, yes, it's good to forgive other people for them as well, but like, it's just to just check yourself, and to just be free from it, be free from that hate. Like, you don't want to carry that hate with you. And I also just want to distinguish the two of, like, mercy and justice. Like,
Mhm.
we do give mercy to people. Like, I agree that we're always like a forgiving people, but at the same time, God, like you said, Mika, God holds people accountable. So don't think that they're not going to
Yes.
get the consequences that they're supposed to have because
Yeah.
of their actions. So
Very
I
true.
think, yeah, so I think right now, I genuinely do think we're in a movement where we will see justice, but at the end of the day, God's going to handle that, period. God's going to
True.
handle all of our battles, and we don't have to worry about anything. But I mean, I do sometimes get frustrated, but I mean, if you just keep going back to your word, it just always refreshes you. It just always refreshes you. Like, it just reminds you, like, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Like, God will handle your battles. Like, no weapon against you shall prosper. Like, it just continues to always feed into you. So I think when people or anyone is like having those feelings of, oh, I don't want to forgive, and oh, I don't want to be like hateful, like, just keep going back to your word, because it'll just feed life into you. And again, that forgiveness is a gift for you.
Yeah, the word has to be what grounds you. It can't be your feelings, your emotions, or your opinions. It has to be the word.
Mhm.
Right.
All right. So that's pretty much it for my outline. Like, the last thing I wanted to say is that, like, when the Bible talks about religious people, and like how the religious people were the ones that kind of like, how do you say, they were the ones who betrayed Jesus in the first place, and it's like they were so concentrated on their religion, they couldn't even see God in front of them. So it's like, when you are a person and you call yourself a Christian, but you have like all this hate in your heart for somebody, like another person, no matter, like, doesn't matter who they are as a person. Like, Bible says for you to love, but you see that you have, prejudice or a hate in your heart, like, don't be like the religious people. Don't like follow, if you're in a religion that like propagates hate. Don't be like that. Keep checking yourself. Like we said, like, keep checking your word, and like, I guess just change.
Yeah, I think it was in the Bible where I think it was Paul who checked Peter. Like, he was like, Peter, like, what are you doing? Like, he was just like blending in with everybody, like, yeah, trying to act like he was better than the Gentiles. And it's like, bro, like, sometimes I also think too what's important with going by the word, also to have that community around you that like checks you, like godly community, good people.
You might be
that
at a
will, like,
KKK rally. Talk about what?
Exactly. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I think because there are a lot of it's the term legalistic Christians, like that really they kind of hold themselves to that law rather than the relationship with God and with Christ. And it's like, it's not about necessarily like that little every like the Pharisees, the way they used to follow every law, and they thought following the law made them righteous. But really, God said, and also Jesus said, if you don't love first, all of those other things don't matter. So the fact of the matter is, we really gotta anchor ourselves in the love of God and really make an effort to see our neighbor and love our neighbor as ourselves, so that we can like so that we can have that barometer to be able to check ourselves, and also be able to create that community that we need to hold us accountable. Because we'll have moments where we fall, but if you have the right people around you, and if you are grounded in the right place, then like it shouldn't fail. That should keep you.
Does that wrap up everything, Vicky? Was there any other points? Okay, all right. Well, this was a great,
we should have a part two.
We should. I definitely think that this conversation about like hate is so relevant right now, just because of the fact that we're facing so much hate, and then it's just so easy to, get lost in that, like we talked about. So yeah, I'm down for a part two.
Yeah,
whenever.
Thank you for putting this together, Vicky. And like, I think this topic was really awesome to talk about and discuss.
Agreed. All right. Well, I guess this wraps up the episode. My name is Brijan, aka Gigi.
I'm Victoria.
And this is Mika.
And thanks for tuning in. And this is
A Word of
Bye, guys. Till next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Wait, are we literally hanging up?